Have you ever gone silent and watched how it shook the very people who used to control you? It's strange, isn't it? How the absence of words can suddenly feel louder than years of conversation. They don't fear your silence because you've stopped talking. They fear it because they've lost their power over you. In a world where everyone fights to be heard, your silence becomes your shield. It protects your peace, exposes their intentions, and draws a line between your growth and their gains. And in Islam, silence isn't just absence, it's ibadah, worship. It's a sign of wisdom, strength, and complete trust in Allah. Today, we'll uncover 7 powerful lessons that reveal why your silence hurts them, because they can no longer manipulate, provoke, or control what they can't reach. Let's begin. Silence is worship. When it protects your dignity, in a world that constantly demands a reaction, silence feels like rebellion. But in Islam, silence, when done with intention, is more than restraint. It's ibadah, a form of worship. The Prophet Muhammad gave us a golden standard. Whoever believes in Allah and the last day, let him speak good or remain silent. Bukhari. These aren't just manners. They are commandments. Speaking only when there is benefit and remaining silent when words may harm is a sign of deep faith and spiritual clarity. Silence isn't weakness, it's strength with a leash. When someone hurls insults, mocks your values, or tries to bait you into argument, staying silent is not backing down. It's rising above. Take a moment to reflect on the times you wanted to defend yourself, but chose dignity instead. That moment of restraint was a moment of obedience. It was ibadah, just like prayer or fasting. The Prophet was mocked, insulted, even physically attacked. Yet he often chose silence, not out of fear, but out of faith. He trusted that Allah's justice would prevail. Your silence in the face of harm is not void. It is filled with trust. When you refuse to let your ego drive your response, you place your heart in Allah's hands. That's power. That's faith in motion. This brings us to a deeper truth. Silence shatters the ego of the oppressor. Manipulators and toxic people feed on your reaction. They poke you to see you bleed. They throw words like darts, hoping for a flinch. But when you respond with silence, their weapons hit nothing but air. Your stillness becomes a mirror, reflecting their own ugliness back at them. The calmness you carry unsettles them more than any insult ever could. This is hikmah, wisdom. Islam teaches us that sometimes the best response is no response at all. It is not your job to fix the wickedness of others with words. Sometimes your silence does more damage to falsehood than your arguments ever could. Allah praises those who respond with peace rather than provocation. The Quran says, "And the servants of the Most Merciful walk upon the earth humbly, and when the ignorant address them harshly, they say, Peace." Surah Al-Furqan 25:63. This is not passive weakness, it is spiritual dominance. It is choosing restraint when rage feels easier. It is walking away not because you are defeated, but because you are undefeated. The Prophet said that the strongest among you is not the one who overcomes others in wrestling, but the one who controls himself in anger. That control often manifests as silence, a silence that speaks louder than screams. There is psychological wisdom here too. When you stop explaining yourself to toxic people, they are left with silence. And that silence, it's loud. It creates a void, a space where their ego is no longer fed, a space where they are forced to sit with themselves. Your silence becomes a mirror, and what they see in that mirror may unsettle them deeply. This isn't just spiritual elevation, it's emotional warfare. When the Prophet was confronted with the slander against his beloved wife Aisha, R.A., he didn't explode in rage or go on a campaign to clear her name. He turned to Allah. He waited. He was silent. And that silence wasn't weakness, it was submission. A trust so deep that he let the heavens speak on his behalf. Allah revealed her innocence in the Quran. Imagine the weight of that moment. That silence won a victory louder than any defense ever could. When you let your silence speak, you declare something powerful. I don't answer to people, I answer to Allah. The Prophet taught this again and again through his character. He never stooped to the level of those who mocked him. He never retaliated with the same bitterness shown to him. And yet, his silence wasn't empty. It was filled with tawakkul, reliance on Allah, with sabr, patience, with dignity. Letting go is often louder than fighting for control. There is a certain beauty in walking away, a beauty that says, I no longer need your validation. I seek only Allah's approval. That's real freedom, spiritual freedom. The Prophet said, leave what doesn't concern you. Your peace, your heart, your energy, they are sacred. Why waste them on battles that add nothing to your soul? Why engage in wars of the tongue when you can win through silence? Some may think silence is passive, but in Islam, silence is a sign of taqwa, God consciousness. The closer you are to Allah, the less you need to prove to others. The companions of the Prophet were men of action, not noise. They spoke less and observed more. Their silence wasn't emptiness, it was remembrance. Dhikr. When the heart is full of Allah, the tongue doesn't waste itself on drama. Think of a lion. It doesn't respond to every bark. It walks with dignity. It knows its worth. That's how a believer should carry themselves. Quiet confidence, dignified silence. Not everything deserves your voice. Some moments deserve your silence. Because silence, when chosen wisely, is the language of the spiritually elevated. Now, what's the outcome of such silence? Freedom. Freedom from the approval of others. Freedom from petty arguments. Freedom from emotional manipulation. When you stop reacting, you start living. You reclaim your peace, you realign with your values. You rediscover who you are without the noise of other people's opinions. In today's digital age, we are surrounded by noise. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone demands a response. But Allah commands us to speak only when it is good. Otherwise, remain silent. Let your silence protect your dignity. Let it be a shield, a boundary, and a statement of self-respect. Sometimes, the most revolutionary act you can do is say nothing. To hold your tongue when you're angry. To smile when you're insulted. To walk away when your soul is being pulled into drama. That's not avoidance. That's elevation. Let's return to the beautiful Hadith again. Whoever believes in Allah and the last day, let him speak good or remain silent. This Hadith is not just about social etiquette. It's about spiritual discipline. It's about learning to speak with intention and remain silent with purpose. We live in a world where talking is glorified and silence is seen as awkward. But Islam teaches the opposite. Silence is a sign of wisdom. Imam Shafi'i once said, "If speech is silver, then silence is golden." The Prophet would often pause before speaking, choosing his words carefully. He wasn't in a rush to fill the air. Because sometimes the pause, sometimes the silence, holds more truth than words ever could. To every person who's been insulted and chose silence, know that you were worshiping. To every soul who wanted to scream but chose patience, know that you were glorifying Allah. Your silence was a form of submission, and Allah never overlooks that. You see, your silence may confuse them, but it frees you. You are no longer a puppet to people's provocations. You are a servant of Allah, not a slave to your ego. You rise above, not to look down on others, but to remain close to Allah. So the next time someone tests your patience, remember, silence isn't surrender. It's strategy, it's strength, it's spiritual clarity. You're saying, I choose Allah's approval over your attention. And if you ever feel small for not defending yourself, remember the Prophet. Remember Aisha, R.A. Remember the verse revealed by Allah to clear her name. That's what happens when you trust in divine justice. Closing call to action. Your silence may confuse them, but it frees you. It's a declaration. I answer to Allah, not your drama. So speak when it matters. Stay silent when it heals. If this message resonated with you, share it. Let's spread the power of faith over noise, one silent step at a time. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.